All right. Welcome back to Guy in a Tie. Unfortunately, since I am moving, I do not have a tie right now. I can't find it under the piles and piles of detritus and shit that I've realized that I need less of. Um, so, so unfortunately, I'm not living up to my namesake here, but Bro with a Bow is. So appreciate you joining me again,
Thank
bro.
you.
Um, And today is going to be very simply all about Spider-Man Brand New Day, a movie that might very well have broken the opening weekend all-time box office record, at least domestically and
Oh
globally.
my gosh, I know it's done well. I didn't know it's done that well.
So yeah, we'll talk more about that, but it's doing extremely well. We can put it in
Oh,
all.
so is it already beating Odyssey at the same point in time?
It has to this point now overtaken Odyssey globally. And Odyssey is doing extremely well, and will end up,
Yeah.
But yeah. So
I didn't. I did not know that.
Yeah, so we'll go into all of that, but we'll kind of give both of our thoughts first. I think on the movie, we'll have discussion about the movie itself. Then we'll go into the box office and put that into context, historical context. And then I was thinking, and Andreas, let me know if you agree, that a nice little game at the end could just be a Spider-Man films ranking. Could
I
be
was
a
thinking the same thing for the game. I only have one note, if you don't mind,
sure.
which is I think I would rather discuss box office first, and then we get into the movie review.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we can do that.
I feel like it's nice to frame it, what's
Yeah.
happening in the world, and then we kind of get into the movie itself.
Okay, so then I'll give my I follow this very closely, so I can kind of like from memory relay this and also just put it into some historical context here. So I'll go domestic, then globally, and then where we see it going potentially, and then how that sort of frames against the historical context of the box office. So domestically, right now, and this might be underselling it, these things are often undersold. We're also in kind of uncharted territory here, but domestically, it's slated to make about $360 million in the opening weekend, which is obviously an insane number. That's more than Superman last year made in its entire run, in just the opening weekend. And that would be a record by 1 or 2 million, depending on how it goes, over Avengers Endgame, which was about 357 million back in 2019. I won't go right now into inflation adjusted and adjusting for movie going trends and per capita ticket trends and everything like that, because that would be its own discussion, but still extremely impressive. Um, Unexpected. I mean, everyone expected this to be very big. Everyone expected to be about somewhere in the top 10 all time domestic box office opening weekends, because it's Spider-Man, the last film made 260 million opening weekend. But people thought it might even make a little bit less than that because it doesn't have the gimmick of bringing back Toby and Andrew. But here we are, and Brand New Day is looking to squeak by Avengers Endgame domestic opening weekend record, which is nothing short of incredible. One other piece, and then we can sort of discuss it a little bit, is that it's made around $930 million internationally. I should say globally. And so that is already, it's overtaken the Odyssey, which is doing extremely well, by the way. On another note, it's holding extremely well, especially even against Spider-Man. But that is the second highest opening weekend record, or opening weekend of all time globally. And Avengers Endgame still holds that record, and it made an obscene $1.2 billion opening in its opening weekend globally, which only 20 films have ever made in their entire lifetime, I believe, something around that number. And so, and at that point, maybe only something like 10 films have ever made in their entire lifetime. So, pretty absurd. Anyway, so all this means essentially that Brand New Day is easily, I think, pretty easily going to cross the $2 billion mark, which will make it one of the probably top 7 to top 4 highest grossing films of all time. And it has a shot at surpassing Avengers Endgame's domestic mark. We'll see if it passes Star Wars. Star Wars still holds the all-time domestic record of $936 million domestically, which is obscene, nearly $1 billion just in the US. But I don't know if it'll pass that. But it's doing very, very well. It is touching a cultural nerve that, it's not succumbing to the same fatigue that a lot of other superhero franchises seem to be succumbing to. I mean, Batman 4 years ago made a little under 800 million its entire worldwide lifetime. Superman last year made 600.
Is there, when we're talking about Batman, do we have to do a little inflation adjusted? Because, oh, sorry, talking about the Robert Pattinson, the Batman, or if you're
Yeah, I'm
talking
talking about the Batman. So I'm talking about like the
oh, okay.
latest
So I was
iterations of
like,
the other
Dark
big.
Knight is long enough ago that I think we need to inflation adjust to make a fair
Well, I
comparison.
mean, yeah. I mean, again, if we go into inflation, my personal favorite adjustment is when you adjust for inflation. So that's ticket price. How much are they buying it for? Population. How many people are there to buy it? And then 3, which is how many tickets is every person buying on average in a given year, which basically just is an indicator of how difficult is it to get people to the theater because of how much other stuff there is to do. And so if you account for all those 3 things, then a lot of things will move around for sure. But I was just saying the most recent iteration of call it the big 3, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, it is now shot past their worldwide grosses in 3 days. So just anyway, insane numbers. Interested to hear your reaction to that. Also, like, anecdotally, I know that you were saying in London things were pretty booked up. I had a very similar experience here in New York. So yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about London, or a UK anecdote. My sister works in advertising for cinema, which is very dependent on ticket sales. So she's constantly forecasting and tracking for the UK, just UK, how many people are going to movies. And there's been certain trends that she talks about, and there's been a bigger trend in the UK seemingly versus at least the US of Marvel fatigue. It seems to be even bigger in the UK, where UK audiences don't go as much. I know that sorry, that was the last one called Spider-Man 3 did well.
No Way Home, you mean?
No Way Home. That was it. No Way Home. Did very well, and it was extremely difficult for me and my friend to find tickets. We had to go pretty far away from the center of London, like about as far out there as I would go, to the big mall in White City, and we had to get a little after 8 p.m. showing, because 7 p.m. was sold out, or something, maybe like 3 chairs but not seated together, some situation like that. We bought it a few days ahead. When I was in the theater, every single seat was taken. And I am just seeing that, despite Marvel 2 being bigger, it's just doing so well opening weekend. I think I'd like to say is a couple comments on this. I think you've heard before, but I'll repeat my philosophy on opening weekends of films that are sequels, is that it's not about the hype of the film. It is a referendum on the movie that came before it. In this case, the movie that came before it was No Way Home, and I think that was quite beloved, and I think this opening weekend shows that. I think there's a little bit of a bad habit of people in the movie world are like, oh, No Way Home's going to do really well because people know that the other Spider-Man are going to be I actually think like a tremendous amount of the audience sort of like know virtually nothing. They just see the title of a movie. I don't think they're like watching many trailers. I think they were like surprised about that. I don't know if there's that much hype, especially in the UK, where I think Marvel's just not talked about as much. I think that was a very delightful experience for a lot of people in this country. Getting to see the actors from the previous movies. And again, there's a referendum on how much they enjoyed the previous movie. I also want to say that I think it's separate from the quality of this one. Opening weekend, there's just not much heard yet. So if this was bad, I don't think that affects really the opening weekend's kind of numbers. It would affect its like legs and then the word of mouth effect. Though that is not what my opinion of the movie will be when we get into discussing what we thought of the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think word of mouth generally won't affect although these days there has been it would generally won't affect the opening weekend too much, although there are instances where it does. So for example, Batman versus Superman was a very famous one where the opening day should have led to a $200 million plus opening weekend, and it only made 160 something, and that was like a very clear indicator of something falling off a cliff big time. As an example. Yeah. And then there is a noted trend of Rotten Tomatoes scores affecting. So like if there are all these other indicators that you're
Yes.
plugging into your model, the Rotten Tomato score and Cinema Score, which is the essentially a almost a barometer for word of mouth, comes out, and that you'll see that affect the opening weekend something, and certainly the long term legs. Anyway, yes, it is. It is. I when I was looking for formats, I was basically couldn't find anything in premium large formats, and I had to went the somewhat smaller theater, but still had a great time in terms of the format itself. So yeah, New York pretty much sold out. You start to get into like, especially with movies this long and this big, like some capacity issues. And so, but still, yeah, incredible.
Where did you go?
I went to the Regal Times Square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I thought. It's always
Uh,
been second banana to the Empire to me.
yeah. I mean, I was looking at AMC, but there was just nothing
Yeah.
in it. I wasn't going to sacrifice. I was going to get somewhere in the middle, and I finally found like a Regal showing at like midnight that had like
Really midnight.
a middle seat, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
What's on your own?
Yes, yeah. But yeah. So I mean, I could go on and on about box office, but anyway, it's an historic performance. There's nowhere else to say. I think it just kind of shows the staying power, the cultural staying power of this character. This character is particular hold on, like, I don't know, Gen Pop psyche, because of his relatability, perhaps his his humor. There's just something about him that continues to resonate with audiences, even in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which we both hated and even audiences didn't particularly like, which came out now 12 years ago, made over $700 million worldwide. And it's just with inflation, that would be $1 billion film. Like, so pretty.
But again, referendum on the prior film. The prior film was.
Well, no, I mean, like, no. The lifetime box office becomes about that movie.
Sorry. I thought we were talking about opening weekends again.
No. The lifetime box office becomes about that movie, and it still made over $700 million worldwide, even as bad as it was. And I don't know there are many other superheroes that you could say that about. That would be like inflation adjusted over $1 billion today. Well over $1 billion.
So outside of this film, single superhero, who's got a bigger haul, Batman or Spider-Man?
Do you mean like, so to clarify? Do you mean like
money made via the movies?
Well, Lifetime, it's Spider-Man just because the Spider-Man is more movies released.
Ooh, are you going? How far back in time are you going?
Well, I mean, just their whole like it's also like when they were released. So Batman was released in 1989, and for the time had the biggest opening weekend ever, and then made somewhere around 450 million, which back in 1989 was incredible. And was I believe the #1 film that year in 89, and might have been up there, but anyway. And then there were a few others that came out in the 90s, and then Batman Begins did okay, and then Dark Knight Rises both did very well, made over $1 billion. Spider-Man, its first iteration came out in 2002.
And how did the Batman do?
How did what?
The Batman do?
The Batman did 770 million, 772, I believe. Which
so we're comparing 7 films to 8 films.
Spider-Man has 11, I believe, including the 2 animated ones. So 9.
Oh, right. Sorry. I guess I was sticking to live action there. I feel the animated is fundamentally different, in my opinion, but maybe it's
9. If you do 9 just live action versus what? I guess there were 4 in the 80s and 90s for Batman, plus 3 more from Nolan. So that's 7 plus. There's only been a single Batman movie since then. Batman vs Superman don't really count. And then Batman, like, it's also like the time is shifted slightly back. So like,
yeah,
it's hard to compare. It's not really apples to apples. I would still say Spider-Man's more popular. Because every single Spider-Man live action film has made at least $700 million.
And are there $1 billion Spider-Man films?
Yeah, multiple. There's Far From Home, which came out in 2019, and No Way Home, which
Makes
made
sense.
almost $2 billion. So, um,
The one last point I want to make on the box office is my thinking has changed now with Odyssey having come out so recently and being so big, and then Spider-Man coming out and also having such a big weekend. Oddly, I hope you see the connection. This is making me feel more optimistic about Doomsday on December 18th than I
Yeah.
was before.
Yeah, I mean, I told you I kind of like went back and forth between it. I was like, sometimes the rising tide can raise all ships. It can become an event, and I can see maybe how like Dune and Doomsday coming out at the same time, like just kind of reaches fever pitch around the Christmas time,
And
whatever.
everyone's going to be off for a while around then.
like right. So I was kind of, but then I was like, oh, but it actually is it done. I was going back and forth. It was fascinating between like you're cannibalizing yourself, you morons, or versus like, oh no, it's gonna be just fucking fever dream of a nerd boy. We're all gonna fucking jizzing all over the place, and it's just gonna be great. But I don't know. I could still see it going both ways. They did give the Odyssey 2 weeks to breathe, and actually, speaking of the Odyssey, still took a really incredibly low hit, even though Spider-Man had the opening weekend record potentially at least, and made over half of what it made the prior weekend, and is still doing very very well. Past
Over
900
half is always the target, right?
What?
Over half of the prior weekend is always your target.
Yeah, ideally, if you can do, you're dropping less than 50% each weekend, and it was dropping like day to day, as in like weekday to weekday, like 20%. And so it was like had incredible drops, and it'll probably stabilize back to that now. It's probably going to make over 600 million domestically, if I had to say, over 1.5 billion internationally or globally, which will put it in the top 15 films of all time. And the fact that like a non-IP Swords and Sandals, it is the Odyssey, but still non-IP Swords and Sandals, 3-hour epic makes 1.5
Wow,
billion.
non-IP. Homer's turning in his.
It's the original IP,
right
bitch.
now.
But yeah. So no, pretty remarkable. And it's continuing well. I'm going to see it again at some point. But
Should we get
But yeah.
into the movie review now?
yeah, let's do it. So maybe I'll give. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to give my thoughts first?
Last time, you went first.
Yes, that's right.
Maybe this time I'll go first
You go
and do
first?
my quick overall view. Sound good?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Overall, I liked it.
Gotcha.
I will just off the bat, numerical score, I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I thought what it did really, really well is I loved how many and how powerful the character moments were. Tom Holland, I realized my last review said he did a really poor job. I think it was the worst performance in the Odyssey, and really strong. Not the single greatest performance of any actor ever, but really, really strong performance in this movie. I thought a lot of the visuals and motifs were. The swinging was exciting. The action was video gamey in the best possible way. I mean that so positively when I say video gaming. I could feel that some people could take that as an insult, but I really, in the way that video games are fun to play, it was fun to watch the action and fight scenes.
You're not the only person to say that, and in fact,
I'm sure it was inspired by the games. It was too close.
Or an inspiration for some of these.
I liked the comedy in it, and I think the main comedic character, somewhat oddly, is John Bernthal's Punisher. He worked as this comedic foil, and he was great. And I loved the buddy cop, team up, very classic, comic book superhero team up of Punisher and Spider-Man. I did read this from another review, but I just really resonates with me. It's the fact that they feel like they won't work together is kind of why it works so well together. There's true tension in the way that sometimes two heroes who are too similar, I don't know, maybe don't work.
No, I mean that's what you want. Foil. It's definition of a foil. You give something. you have someone to provide a stark contrast against, you're always going to have writing material because you're going to have the way about it that this character would have gone and the way about this character would have gone, and they're going to all there's going to be some tension there and some moralizing and some meaty discussions to be had. So for sure, 100%, yeah.
And then I also want to give credit to some of the character moments, both on a compliment, Zendaya and Sadie Sink, and some of their interactions with Tom Holland. It is an 8 out of 10, so it's not a perfect movie, and I'll get into more of it later on. But the bits that I think weren't strong is I think some of the execution of the conceit was not that strong. It was a lot of like, what? Yeah, but what? Why is this the case? Like, wait, why have you not told your best friends who you are? Like, there's a lot of like, I was trying to understand the character motivation at certain points. I know they kind of tried to explain it, and I understand it led to some really great moments. I just think they could have done a slightly better job. And then the other one was I didn't feel that this film had a strong villain in the traditional sense of the word. Also, I think while I like Sadie Sink's character, or some things but I do like about Sadie Sink's performance, I think the character was confusingly like a foil and an ally, and sometimes they kind of established that they're allies, but they were fighting, and then I think they were kind of trying to make the Mr. Milchick the sort of the villain, but he was not present enough or scary enough or villainy enough or powerful enough at almost any point for that to really work. And that I think was a pretty big miss. And that's really what takes this movie. Those two things I think take this movie down quite a bit. But overall, I really liked it.
I think pretty much I have a very similar set of takeaways as you do. I've Letterboxd I gave it a 4 out of 5, which means like I really liked it. I think it's probably my favorite of the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. I've always thought that they were generally good and enjoyable, but forgettable. Not forgettable, maybe like disposable is the best way to put it. They're kind of like just like they're there, and it's like it's a nice lighthearted time or whatever. But it's always a little bit like the visuals are a bit bland, the story is a bit bland, the acting is fine, the jokes just are a little bit again forgettable. I couldn't honestly tell you a single joke I remember from any of those films.
Flip.
For sure, yeah. And then some parts just make essentially no sense, like almost all of Far From Home's plot, and then No Way Home's plot leading up to like the third act, which was such a catharsis that I kind of forgave what happened before it to some degree.
Yeah, I thought that plot and like how we got into these situations and the
it's like okay, I'm glad we got into this situation, but the fact that this is how we got there, it feels like
yeah.
So anyway, point is that like I think to me it's probably the strongest of the Tom Holland films. It is plotted interestingly the most tightly and the most like one of the first two Sam Raimi films. It looks the most it looks filmed. Let me put it that way. It doesn't look, there's obviously there's CG and there is some green screen, but it is so obvious in some of the John Watts films, which again I like. But where it's like, okay, you filmed this clearly not outdoors. You can tell by the lighting on the character, and you can tell by like how flat the background looks. Just like it just doesn't. This is not actually outdoors. Whereas New York feels like New York. The colors pop. It feels visually more mature. It's hard to describe, but like the cinematographically, from a coloring perspective, they literally brought in a colorist, Daniel Destin Cretton, and that in some ways like reminds me of the first two acts of Shang-Chi, which he also directed.
Yes.
Before kind of exploded. It's like, okay, wow, this feels visually distinct in some ways from the rest of the MCU, which I appreciated. And I was engaged in, as you said, the swinging. You were getting a lot of kind of over the shoulder point of view, interesting sort of dynamic camera angles.
Yeah.
They were obviously using some of his like Spider-Man's like his mobility repertoire. Anyway, I think it was from a visual perspective, it was extremely satisfying.
Excellent.
from a character perspective, I very much appreciate. I thought it was maybe some of the most emotionally resonant moments of any live action Spider-Man film, except for maybe Spider-Man 2. But
Right.
even that, I would say Spider-Man 2 is about Toby dealing with, life as Spider-Man and how difficult it is, and he's wondering if it's worth making the sacrifice, and he's getting this, he's losing his powers as a result, and has to make the choice again between responsibility and doing what's right and making these sacrifices. Whereas for Peter, it's a slightly, or for Tom Holland, I should say, it's a slightly different choice where he truly believes that he needs to do this alone, and like needs to impose this isolation upon himself. And you can understand why. You can sort of see what the logic is, even though people are telling him that literally the Gene DeWolf is telling him, hey, you should fucking talk to somebody or whatever.
Mhm.
And but you can see it, obviously it's manifesting in these spider powers of his. But some of those moments of isolation that he's feeling, he feels disconnected even from this citywide adulation and adoration that he doesn't engage with
I
at all at the very
I
end.
really, really liked for some point in the movie I was kind of like almost angry, like, where's J. Jonah Jameson? And I don't care if it's not the same actor or even the same character, but I was feeling that there should be that foil, that someone who does hate Spider-Man trying to get people against Spider-Man was necessary for a lot of the film, until I realized the adulation is so important to this version of the Spider-Man that thinks what he's doing is right. Because yes, he has Wolf telling him, you got to slow down, you got to chill out, you got to work on the personal side. It can't just be about the work. But there is a very real, thousands or millions of people telling him, no, what you're doing is right. Where I think a lot of movies, when a character is sort of struggling with something and they're sort of pursuing a path that they shouldn't, there's sort of no reason given to pursue that path. And it's very ununderstandable as the audience. But in this one, I mean, sure, what one person's telling you, take a break, and then a million people are saying, we love you, Spider-Man, you're keeping our city safe, keep doing what you're doing, which of course would be an incredible motivator for anyone, even if it was self-destructive, what they're doing, to keep doing it. And it took me a long time into that movie where I was like, no, wait, not Spider-Man is a menace. This is great. This is what's driving him to essentially burnout, is essentially what we were watching.
Yeah, he's burning out, and he's also, honestly, like, the Spider-Man is a menace. That voice is almost internal in the movie. He's almost like, oh, I've got this monster inside me I need to fix or whatever. He's almost self-flagellating to a degree. And then he almost doesn't even really, he's aware of it.
He's very self-critical.
Yeah, he's aware of it, and it definitely motivates him in terms of the adulation and the citywide adoration. But he doesn't actually drink it in and really kind of say okay, I'm doing a good job. It's okay to until the very end, when he's able to see all these people looking up at Punisher with the mask on in the hospital, and sort of drink it in a bit anonymously. And anyway, so all that to say, I think, to me, certainly most mature, emotionally resonant. Some of the moments I thought were extremely touching. The some the discussion with MJ, and I knew it was going to happen. I had a sense it was going to happen at the that they weren't just going to have a quick and easy way out of the spell.
No, I thought that was
her saying
well executed. I kind of saw it. It's funny. I saw it going one way for quite a long time, and then at some point I was like, wait, this is kind of going on too long. Is this really what they're doing? And I kind of got re-tricked, and then they pulled the rug, which is good because I both kind of called it, and I felt the sort of twist. Because I think I'd seen it quite a bit earlier, and so I thought it was well executed, actually.
And I'm talking more about the boat scene where she eventually says I don't love you. This I'm sure the girl that you wrote this to very much appreciates this, and I appreciate it from afar in a sense, but even though I don't remember it. But I don't love you, I don't even know you. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, that's And then like he goes and has they go and like kind of chill. He goes and has like a fun time with Ned.
I thought it
And
was really great that in this film they don't fully resolve
yeah,
that love story. I don't think it needed to, and
yeah,
it gives a great, it's I think so many of these probably these movies where they have so many sequels, they don't plan ahead and they kind of wrap up
almost an
too much
acknowledge what
on a
happened
clear
for it.
film,
Whereas
which
the
then
no
makes them
memory
kind of
thing, yeah,
undo things later on.
the no memory thing was a critical part of this story. It was like Base Hitch was part of his isolation. He just imagine nobody knowing your name and you feeling this compulsion not to tell anybody your name, and you still have to go about and people not just nobody knowing your name, people you see all the time who you love and adore not remembering who you are. Like, can you just
No,
like
I think it's a great conceit. But what did frustrate me, and I will now, I think it's time to discuss it, is this is not the first time, much like in the last movie, where I understand they had to get to a point, right? We have to get to, we're breaking down the multiverse and it has to be caused by Spider-Man. I understand we have to get to a spell done at the end where everyone forgets Peter Parker. And I'm not saying that those aren't good destinations. Those are good destinations, they'll allow for good movies. However, I think that they can do a better job of the internal logic to get to that place. For example, in this movie, yes, everyone's forgotten him. I think there should have been and I can think of multiple ways how you could have done it, and it would have taken nothing. It would have taken a minute of the movie to explain why Peter could not tell Zendaya and MJ and Ned who he was. As simple as he is got that little cup of coffee, right? Or he gets a coffee from her. He's got his little note. He's all dressed up, and he goes to her, and she's working at a coffee shop. And at that moment, maybe a villain sort of tracks him to that location, and he kind of has to run out and change and deal with that. And then he starts thinking, okay, if I'm attracting this danger to Zendaya, I couldn't possibly tell her. I mean, that would have just been a moment that would have, I think, internalized in everyone's minds of like, okay, yes. It's not theoretical endangering her. It's like we literally saw how you could have been endangering her. You fluked running out of that coffee shop, getting changed, dealing with that villain, and we're like, okay, that changed my mind. He went in and his mind was changed because something that happened. I think that would have been, in my personal opinion, that would have been so much more powerful. I wouldn't send that whole movie just being effing tell her already. And even to his own, again, sorry to go back to this point about the internal logic of the movie, he's like, I won't tell her to not endanger her. At points when she's very clearly already in danger, so it doesn't matter anymore. The thing you try to prevent is not prevented by not telling her. So now just tell her. These are things that, I'm sorry for ranting, it did bother me. It does bring the movie down from a 10 to an 8. It did hurt, and I think it would have been really quite simple to fix.
Yeah, I think so. Because she was endangered multiple times by being associated with him in No Way Home, like in that movie, she literally fell off. He like nearly didn't save her. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man did from dying. MJ. I think those instances in No Way Home. Plus, I think
then maybe you make it as thing. I think you just flash back to that moment of her getting caught as he goes up to her the camera, and then again, that what are we talking now? 15 seconds of a flashback.
Yeah, I guess
he walks away. I know. I personally, I'll be honest. I personally don't like flashbacks as
explanations. I think
explanations.
there's a bit of a show don't tell debate going on here, where it's like, it's kind of like trusting the audience to come along with you in that regard. I think here's the thing. I listen. They could have shown it. I wouldn't have changed my opinion much either way. I think from a writer's perspective, they were probably thinking, oh, like MJ being associated with him even through his mind, and Jean Grey going and putting her life in danger only reinforces to him that she can't be associated with him, and him revealing him to her, or like opens up the door for her being associated with him. And then of course she tells him like, well, that's our decision to make, blah blah, whatever, and we can have a debate about that. But yeah, I mean, I think they could have reinforced it. The connection, or his his in like in his own mind, ironclad assertion that like people who are associated with me die. So like Aunt May was killed because she was associated with me. MJ was almost killed, and I didn't save her like another Spider-Man did because of me. And and then so like they could have reinforced that in some way. I think, and however ultimately illogical it is, because it's you need to have loved ones. They want to be with you. You need to give them the choice of being with you or not to as well. And anyway, so I hear you. I think to me the biggest, I don't think this movie is ever going to be a 10 out of 10 for me, or at least for the bones were like very, very solid and good, but there was just not enough for it to be like going to the upper echelon. I do think what brought it down from being like a 9 out of 10, let's say, was I do think, as you said, Jean Grey. I think you sort of hinted at this. Jean Grey,
the villain,
is, it's hard to describe. There's a few different things that I've kind of take issue with a little bit. One, she really is like almost to a degree unforgivably evil at times in this movie.
I agree. I had this thought too.
She literally kills at least one person that I can remember. She kills that old man walking. She backs onto the street for Aura. Like that was one I was like, wait, what the fuck? And then what was else? There was another one where she did kill somebody.
In my opinion, may I jump in with Unforgivable?
When she like, well, the MJ thing is emotional.
The MJ thing.
Well,
the
okay,
MJ thing is very,
right.
As a human being.
Yeah.
That's very difficult to
talk about from a live, like, but we're talking literally, like,
right.
live,
I'm thinking from the perspective of Spider-Man. It is very difficult to forgive as a human.
From a logical perspective, killing somebody. I'm trying to remember who she killed. She actually killed multiple people. She killed that guy. She literally just like straight up for Aura, walked the guy back into the street to prove that she could do it, and then the guy into open traffic and flipped over. This old
another
guy.
review really focused on that one.
And then there was another one where she like, oh right, well she obviously she was basically like playing with a nuclear bomb by like trying to control the Hulk. I guess he was Professor Hulk when she was controlling him, but still like extremely irresponsible. And like of course then the Hulk.
Sorry, playing with a nuclear bomb. What when was that?
Like when she tried to mind control the Hulk, and mind control Professor Hulk. So she was trying to mind control the more reasonable version of the Hulk, but it's like basically sort of saying, well, I can control this nuclear. I mean, like then, we have a nuclear meltdown or something. It's like, okay, well, you could have foreseen that coming. Like the Hulk
I think mind controlling the Hulk is pretty forgivable.
No, that's not. It's like again, let's like she was like, and again, like
she's trying to get in a vault. The Hulk's really strong, and she can mind control people.
I'm not saying there isn't like some logic behind like what she's trying to get, but it's like like the consequences are like extremely predictable, and if she's supposed to be like smart and like extremely irresponsible, they very least negligent and irresponsible. Let me put it that way.
I feel like the worst thing you're doing is like the psychological trauma to Bruce Banner by having the Hulk. I don't
know. The Hulk easily could have killed people.
That feels like the biggest downside.
The Hulk is like killed thousands of people just by rampaging through streets, and like so, and she, for all we know, she did like mass, like literally like 1/8 of a building fell down onto the streets below. Like who knows? Like we didn't see it because it's a PG-13 film, but if we're just extrapolating out into the real world, what would have actually happened? Then people died. So anyway, point is, people died from her actions, just straight up died. And then two, yes, from an emotionally manipulative perspective, it's like, holy shit, I can't believe you did that to a person. By the way, not to mention like, not as bad as, let's say, what happened in Wonder Woman 1984, but she raped a person. She sexually assaulted a person, basically. Both Peter and MJ, for that matter. Like, and just like, okay.
Wait, when?
She inhabited MJ's body and
when they kissed.
Doing it. Like, fooling the other person to think that she was that person, and then also taking over that person's body and kissing somebody
else. I don't know if a kiss is rape.
It's sexual assault. That's for damn sure.
I'll downgrade it to sexual assault. I'll allow that one.
So, I mean, it's not quite as bad as what happened in Wonder Woman.
Showing someone in an inappropriate picture is also sexual assault. So the bar is pretty low.
I mean, yeah. Point is, if my body had been taken over without my consent, and I had been forced to do any kind of sexual act to anybody else, like that I had no knowledge or memory of, I would feel pretty fucking violated. Let me put it that way. And I also feel pretty violated if I were Peter in that mark.
I stand by that. I don't know. I gotta be honest, from my perspective, the kiss thing with the ex-lover is more unforgivable from a human perspective.
Killing somebody.
Well, I don't want to get too into it, but I'm not fully convinced that those people are killed.
I mean, the guy walked into
people have been hit by cars and survived. That's a fact.
Okay, but he was a 60-year-old.
It wasn't like he was squashed.
He was a 60-year-old guy who was overweight and got flipped over and walked in traffic. Like, you can't, let me put it this way. You don't know he got killed, but you definitely don't know. It's more likely than not that he got killed, one. And then two, you don't, like, the fact that you don't know whether or not he got killed or not, does somebody can get shot and not get killed, but you still are responsible for them dying if you shoot them. So, like,
I agree. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if they died. I don't know.
I think killing people is bad. I think it's worse than a little bit.
I don't want to get too into the comic book lore, but this was a reveal that kind of happened later, like so maybe in the last 10 years, where there's like a big reveal where, like, you know, the Hulk does all this rampaging and does a lot of property damage, but it's sort of explained that some part of Bruce Banner has always had some foothold in the Hulk, because in all the times he grabs tanks by the turret and throws them against other tanks and stuff like that, no one actually ever dies, and it's because Bruce Banner's like constantly running the numbers. I mean, he's like a, you know, beyond superhuman genius, running the numbers on like the physics that he will injure, but he will not kill. And he's had just a toehold on the Hulk.
But literally in Civil War, they like literally did a death tally of different times that where the Hulk could cause destruction. Like, for example, they did something in they had like that sequence where Thunderbolt Ross goes to different times of the collateral damage, and not all of it was just the Hulk, but there was one that was like they were talking about the scene in Ultron where it is the Hulk, you know, and of course it's the Hulk who's been affected to some degree by Wanda into being extremely rageful, but still he's fighting, you know, the Hulkbuster Iron Man armor, and like they just level basically an entire African city.
Yeah.
As part of that scene, like people died. People died. Like the Hulk killed people. Like, I don't know what else to say. And like, hot take, I think killing people is probably the worst thing you could do to them. Like, anyway, so anyway, all that to say, she was extremely villainous to the point where it was like, both from a utilitarian perspective and just, as you say, an emotional manipulation perspective, was like, I guess Spider-Man's a really good guy, but like being able to forgive her or see
and suddenly be on her side is so jarring, and so suddenly being on her side, yet he then fights the Hand once he's theoretically on her side.
Yeah,
honestly, the movie wanted a cool action scene where a bunch of ninjas fight Spider-Man. Again, I understand why you want to get to that destination. I just think you could have done there. I believe there is a logically consistent way you could have got there. The path to that point didn't have to be so counter-logical.
There are ways to make her. Now, here's the thing: if you were a true villain, like if Jean, like whatever, if your name wasn't Jean Grey and there was actually like in the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery a character of her powers or whatever, like she would have actually made for a really good villain because she's doing villainous things, but she still has like an emotionally resonant backstory. And you're like, okay, good villain, you know. But this is a backdoor pilot to a protagonist that will exist in that will drive in theory the next saga. So it's just kind of a very like strange way to like, this is the person I'm supposed to get behind in the next X-Men iteration, like, you know, in however 3 years or whatever.
You say protagonist, but I think the seeds are
well, sure. I mean, Jean Grey also always has issues.
She's going to become a villain.
Phoenix Force, or whatever. But like,
Force becomes a villain, and I think the villain arc is so well established already. And I think it's sort of a trying to think of maybe even like a Paul Atreides, where like in the beginning of the first time you see them, they are sowing some seeds as to the place they'll end up at the beginning. I think then she's going to go through like an era of like being a hero, but there'll be some darkness there, and it'll come full circle in the end when she. I think
maybe be like a Daenerys.
This is a setup villain. They're a true villain
situation. Anyway, so I just thought it was a little bit. It wasn't bad. It was kind of just seemed a bit inconsistent, just logically inconsistent, and just like kind of emotionally inconsistent, and And then I agree. I thought that
She also could have just not killed people.
well, yeah, you could have made some very minor changes to certain parts of what she did, and almost erased that, but still given her a clear dark streak. And
She
'cause
could have
there's-
been extremely mean to Peter, and then again, if she was manipulative,
right.
it's bad. You shouldn't be like that. And she could have been vindictive. That's really what she was. I mean, going after MJ in that way, that was such a crazy vindictive
unnecessary.
thing to do.
It was logistically unnecessary for what she wanted to
I
do.
mean, it furthered her plans in no way
It
whatsoever.
was just purely masochist or sadomasochistic. It was just like, okay, wow, that you just really wanted to cause.
And
Peter-
why? Because Spider-Man minorly inconvenienced her at another part of her scheming.
Like, honestly, that scene alone would have been enough to be like, wow, what a really shitty thing to do. But at least when you, I don't know, again, whatever. So the point is, there were some interesting choices there made. But I agree, they are laying the seeds for her to have this darkness. Daenerys Targaryen kind of like you have a lot of great power. There's clearly a core of good in you, but there's also a lot of dark in you that pops out every now and again in certain times. And that will ultimately win over in some regards before maybe you finally make a sacrifice in X-Men 3 and kill yourself as Dark Phoenix or whatever. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you on the Jean Grey stuff. I was, it was what it was. I do also agree that the Department of Damage Control, Tramell Tillman, was kind of like, it almost again felt like a bit of a backdoor pilot, that and
Backdoor pilot to what?
To X-Men. So like basically like Tramell Tillman played this character that is like a militant anti-mutant kind of propagandist, like a McCarthyist figure in the comics, I guess, Metzger. So I imagine he will pop back up again because he had disappeared.
Oh, I see.
And then
again, I thought he was kind of trying to also be the villain, but it's not. Again, not. Yeah, I don't have to repeat that point. Like not threatening in any way.
Yeah, right. He didn't say, and also it was.
I stand by some of these things are easy to solve. They're easy to solve. Have Jean Grey not kill anyone. Have the motivations for why Spider-Man's not telling people a little bit clearer. The bones of the movie, I think, really limit it with this whole villain situation. I mean, it's so confused. I just don't know what you could have improved that in a way, but I just don't know. Or you just don't go with the Jean Grey angle at all. I don't know. I think the bones are kind of bad on this one, and there was no real solve. Or you had to very significantly start changing the movie now, right? Like,
you have to remake it because part of the integration with the Jean Grey plotline was Peter like, oh, should I literally suppress my DNA with a device, which will of course end up being like the mutant collar.
They're going to use that to collar mutants.
And it was a backdoor pilot to that device. Like, oh no, now Peter Parker is the unknowing genesis of all this, and it was literally like the physical manifestation of his like internal struggle of not just like the Spider DNA versus his DNA, but like, do I be Peter Parker, or do I be Spider-Man, or do I be both? Do I try to be a human being as well as a hero?
And then the other thing is that the character was so far from the Jean Grey. I've been so appreciative of the movies and how well they've stuck to the comics and the moments where they edit things or combine things. It's always been things that, that makes sense. You can't have, whatever, the 50 years of lore and explain it all to the audience. Sometimes you need to simplify things. I've almost always been on their side. There was so much done with this Jean Grey character. The hopping into bodies at 33 feet. I mean, this is so different from her power set. Also, Jean Grey is I know I've read a lot of the comics. I know a lot of the backstory here, so sorry if I blab a bit. Jean Grey is primarily a telekinetic, and she develops telepathic powers later on. I actually made me think it was with her first brush with the Phoenix Force that gives her the ability for that. But I definitely know she unlocks it later on. And in this, it's kind of inversed. They also had to like invent this pretty shallow character, Sarah, a sister that does not exist, That's sort of fine.
Actually, she does exist like very, very briefly in like the 80s or something. I read about
Oh, does
that.
she? Okay, fair enough. I don't
Very
recall.
obscure. It's not often referenced, but she did have
Yeah,
some
yeah,
there.
yeah. I have some blind spots on my X-Men. 80s would be a big one. I'm pretty read up on 2000s onwards. And the other thing that I just think is just it didn't really click for me was so Spider-Man specifically resistant to her power, which by the way, like Spider-Man has a lot of like special things, particularly like Spider Sense gives him certain abilities that kind of no other hero has, but I just don't know if I necessarily bought that one either, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, also if you're gonna make a telepath vindictive character who's maybe emotionally manipulative in a and maybe a little bit of a seductress in a way that would be willing to use someone's ex-lover against them. I mean, that's Emma Frost. I mean, there's an X-Men for that. Like that's
Yeah.
the White Queen of the Hellfire Club. I mean, that is sorry, I'm just reaching immediately for like, okay, if I was to, okay, this you want an X-Men, you needed to be a mutant, all right, like, well, then it's not Jean Grey. Nothing about that's very Jean Greyish. Jean Grey's pretty little pre-Phoenix Force, pretty goody two shoes. She suffers because of all the voices in her head, but pretty vanilla up until the Phoenix Force. And I just feel like it's a bit of a rewriting of the character in a way that Emma Frost could have done a perfectly good job at. Sticking Emma Frost in there, cast some blonde actress, and yeah, go to town. The whole thing would have made a lot more sense.
I can see that. I mean, yeah, it was an interesting choice. I just
And part of it was like, may I ask this? I'm gonna go rogue here. And I was picking up a bit of a vibe. Is there like a vibe? Like there
between
seems to be like a romantic-y, flirty vibe between Jean Grey and Peter Parker. And the only thing I can feel that's then referencing is nothing to do with Jean Grey, but okay, a white redhead and Peter Parker harkens to, his actual, his main love interest in every media has ever been in, pretty much. I guess there's been some Gwens here and there. Yeah, I don't know. Was that just me? That's just a me thing?
no, I mean, I think there's
They're
definitely
sitting on a
some.
bed. It felt pretty intimate.
Yeah, I think it's partially just like okay, they happen to be of the opposite sex or whatever, and they're having an emotionally intimate moment. But so there may be. I think there's clearly going to be. I think in the MCU, which I think is interesting. I guess I'm interested to see how they take it. Spider-Man will be like have a clear through line into the MCU version of the X-Men through Jean Grey as like a friend, and and we'll see if that ends up being romantic at all. I doubt it. I doubt they'll actually go that route. Maybe it's kind of like a
Maybe
flirtation at distance kind of
Spider-Man
thing.
acts in many, because we're slated for a lot of films. Maybe somewhere way down the line, Spider-Man is gonna be the Wolverine character in. I don't know if you know, Wolverine often has to kill Jean Grey to stop her, losing control and giving into the evil of the Phoenix Force. And now that's gonna be Spider-Man. Maybe that's how. Maybe that's the conclusion of the Spider-Man character. Maybe Tom Holland
I don't think they'll take that away from
sacrificing himself.
and
Although I gotta say, Wolverine makes a lot more sense with the, with the romantic
regeneration factor. Yeah, exactly. No, I would say I don't think they're going to take the away. I think you'll just be like, I think they'll have now just a pre-existing connection between who the X-Men are and what they do in Westchester and Spider-Man. So like if you want to have crossovers or references or an easy way for the next, I don't know what they're going to call post-Avengers, Secret Wars, Avengers, or crossovers films, but like whatever you call it, you'll have an easy plot device now or an easy way to kind of build that connection bridge. So I don't think it'll be romantic at all. I also don't think you take that moment away from Wolverine, honestly, or at the very least Scott. It's either got to be Wolverine or Scott who kills, or herself, I suppose, who kills Jean Grey. But yeah, I know. I think no. I mean, still listen. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Actually, I'll go watch it again, and I thought it wasn't let's call it overstuffed. I actually thought each, except for maybe Florence Pugh a little bit, in terms of like the named characters, like performed, had an interesting role or utility in the movie. I agree that Punisher's presence, I liked it. I just enjoyed kind of like them bantering, and then I thought kind
So
of
it's kind of funny how Punisher's whole deal is he's okay with killing, Spider-Man isn't, and then to your point, he's just like completely ignoring what's going on with
right what Jean Grey did.
completely ignoring what's on with Jean Grey.
Killed a bunch of
Again,
people.
to be honest, I think just for myself, man, I think for my head canon, I kind of needed her to not be killing people because this film doesn't make sense. Like, it actually doesn't square anymore if she is killing people. And so I kind of needed, like, actually, that guy was like surprisingly fine after getting hit by that car. Like, no one was under the building when bits of the Hulk building fell off. Like, I just kind of, I think, needed that to work.
Use like,
and so maybe it's like, maybe I just want it and I'm ignoring the logic here. But I think this film, like, maybe it goes from like an 8 to a 7, you know. I think I need that headcanon because then okay, you have this issue with the Punisher, you have this issue with Jean Grey, you're out here fighting for your life for her, like, no,
it just felt a little bit, and again, like, oftentimes in these films they're kind of using selective, Coyote versus Acme physics, where it's like, well, that guy got hit by a car, sure, but like, what, you think he died from that? Like, he just got flipped up in the air and he got up, he gets like spars over his head for a little bit. Like, what are you talking about?
So, he was in a neck brace for 2 weeks.
The audience to react to it or whatever. And like, there just happened to be nobody underneath Hulk and like 50 tons of concrete. Like, it was fine. What are you talking? So like, if you literally didn't see somebody die, then you're fine. Like, sure. And that's kind of like, I think that's how they intended it, was a selective physics, cartoonish physics. But I was like, no, that's pretty clearly a death that I just witnessed, and she killed him for aura, and then it kind of moved on casually. And then you said the emotional manipulation. So like, I was kind of, it's like, damn, they're making her kind of a piece of shit. But
I can just about get past one or the other. Like, I both is too much.
But again, probably the strongest of the Tom Holland films for me. I would say it's not the level of Spider-Man 1 or 2, but
on the subject of, sounds like you're doing some ranking, buddy.
Yeah, maybe we just actually move into that straight up. So do you want to do tier ranking, or do you want to do just like a straight up like 1 through 11? What do you think?
11. Oh, we're including the animated movies.
Yeah, I think we got to do for me because, and I think you disagree with me here, but I hold those in extremely high regard.
I hold them in high regard too. I just think of them as different. But yeah, I'm happy to. I'm putting together. Do you have this already like queued up? I think 1 to 11 in this case.
I'm queuing up. Right.
I'm putting together a TL draw board of this.
Okay.
If that works for you.
Yeah, no, I got that.
Yeah. Here, let me share it as I work on it. I will have to add the. A few more, but I'm getting that one at a time. Give me a second here, man. It's No Way Home. Actually, it's in order. Far From Home. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I've got a list here, but I can. We've got them all. Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, can you see what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I am not an expert on movie posters. It seems like lots of different versions of these, and I don't know like which is like the official one or official movie poster is even a concept.
This is fun. I think these work.
And Brand New Day. All kinds of things here. I like this one. I'm now just picking my favorite ones. Definitely not going with whatever the official one is. And you want the Spider-Verse ones, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cold. That's good. Yeah, let's go. Let's go this one. Is Into the Spider-Verse the first one?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then what's the second one?
Across the Spider-Verse.
I see.
It's changing the preposition.
Classic. All right, let's do this one's kind of cool. And this is the last one. Cool. All right. So we have our board. I guess we can
Ooh,
we're gonna wanna do a bit of that. We're gonna do this. We're gonna blow you up. Yeah, make it more official seeming. I should be a little bit better at using the software. One would presume, but here I am. Actually, let's make this actually enormous. Yeah, something like that. Okay.
I think
I-
there needs to be 11 spots, by the way.
Sorry,
I think there need to be 11 spots, by the way.
can do.
Wanna
So
go
I
top?
think we do them in order. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
I
I
see.
guess
Okay.
left. Did you follow? Kind of.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Where
That's tough.
you start off? Where do you put Spider-Man?
I'd probably put that personally. I'd put that at so I think it's almost tough to do it without contextualizing why I put it there, but I put it at 3, and I probably put it at 3 for a different reason than you might put it at 3. So that's where I was thinking maybe we start from bottom and go to the top, whatever, and debate each time as we go up.
Yeah. So on 3, I like it. I'd probably go 3 or 4. So yeah, I could see 3. No, I think 3. Yeah.
Okay.
I just am on the same page as you this time, but I'll have more discussion. You know, I'm a sucker for an origin story. I think I also have I maybe I don't have the word as a sucker, but like yeah, I think I tend to like the first in series so much, and I give them so much weight and credit for being able to carry, you know, a sequel and being deserving of a sequel. I think we're gonna have a bit of a disagreement on Tom Holland's first one, which I think I liked a bit more than you. But this one, I love the, you know, you see Uncle Ben's death, you get the origin, you get the great moments, the montagey moments at the catching of the. You have the development in spider powers. I actually stand by. I think Tobey Maguire is a great actor, and I don't think did quite a strong Peter. I don't love his Spider-Man that much. If that makes sense, I always thought Andrew Garfield was a strong Spider-Man, and I didn't like his Peter. And then I've always kind of thought of Tom Holland as actually a pretty good marriage of the best of both worlds, where I like his Peter and I like his Spider-Man, particularly in this one. I have felt that the in the comics, I've actually found it a little annoying that the kind of the inappropriate humor at the wrong time thing, in a way that I don't dislike comedic characters. I actually find Deadpool. I've laughed out loud while reading those comic books. I actually find him funny. But in this latest movie, I thought that was the best execution of Spider-Man humor I've ever seen, where he's making jokes in the middle of fights, and it just felt natural and right. And something about, I think, this character now not making jokes while like learning or kind of being overwhelmed, but making jokes as a sort of survival mechanism in a world where this is his breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and every day. It makes it make more sense. If you're doing something all the time, and even if it is risking your life all the time, gallows humor is gonna creep in a way that if someone's just learning powers in high school and figuring this all out, I feel like it's a strange time for jokes to be cracked.
I agree with that. I don't think it's uncommon that a lot of people think that Tobey Maguire had the best Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield the best Spider-Man, and Tom Holland's like a nice little kind of medium between the two. I think I'd similarly give this credit not just for being the first in its
And the villain is strong. The
grand
villain is
series.
strong. I gotta give credit. We just talked
Yeah.
a lot about weak villains. Strong villain.
I think
Strong villain.
I think it is I think we have to remember that this came out in 2002, before and it was kind of one of the heralds of the onslaught of superhero cinema, and helped define what modern superhero origin and just in general cinema would be like from a tonal, a budgeting, a production values, an acting perspective. Like it sort of the actors took it seriously, but also understood that it's okay to like go a bit overboard, like Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin.
Hamming it up, Willem Dafoe. But Willem Dafoe hams it up, and also is I find we were talking about like the Odyssey and how I guess you could argue like Robert Pattinson was hamming it up, but in a way that's completely you unempathizable.
Yeah.
Like you cannot empathize with Robert Pattinson's character. In a way, the Willem Dafoe's character, I think a villain you need to empathize with the villain, otherwise they just become caricaturish. Of course, the whole time you're understanding this guy, right? Like things are kind of going wrong out of his control. He's sort of losing his mind. There is a sort of very empathetic Norman Osborn who's kind of trying to fight the Green Goblin Norman Osborn, so it makes sense. He's being affected by this sort of mind-altering drug that has changed his like genetic makeup or whatever. Yeah, in my opinion, and just one of the all-time better villains of any superhero film ever. I'm sorry, he crushed it.
I think he's up there for sure. He's very good. Okay, great. So then we'll have Spider-Man at 3. Spider-Man 2 for me would probably be at number 2.
If it's my turn, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. Go for it.
I'm just gonna go and put Spider-Man 2, and I'm gonna put it at number 2.
Okay. There we go. So we agree.
No, sorry, I'm not putting it like it's finalized, like that's what I think.
Okay.
Now I'm happy for you to reflect, but I'm happy to like argue.
No, I mean I would put it number 2 too. I think we disagree when it goes to number 1. So that's the interesting part. This is where I think maybe starting from the bottom and kind of like coming to a consensus as we go up and making trade-offs. Because I think my number 1 might be your number 5 or something, and mine, I don't know what you're putting at number 1, so I'll be interested to see. But I put number 2. I think a lot of people were calling this when it came out the best superhero film of all time. This was back in 2004. It certainly has a very one of the, again, similar to Spider-Man 1, similar to some of his the villains that have come after him. Alfred Molina's Otto Octavius was a very like a sympathetic character who had dreams and ambitions and familiar relationships and a fatherly relationship to Peter Parker in many ways that soured, and kind of not his fault ultimately. Like it was his fault, but it was just almost a Greek tragedy of like it was Icarus's wings, and so like he
trying to harness the power of his son.
Yeah, like he literally flew too close to the sun. The chip fried, and all of a sudden, his technology is taking over him. And then he finally realizes the end and makes the ultimate sacrifice. And then of course you have that married with Peter Parker struggling with, do I be Spider-Man? Do I be Peter Parker? I can't seem to have both. It feels like I can't have the love of my life, and I can't tell her the truth, but I can't be Spider-Man while also focusing too much on this, as people will die and I'm losing my powers. He eventually chooses for a little bit to be Peter Parker, and then ultimately the guilt takes over. Aunt May kind of gives him the rousing pep talk, and he becomes Spider-Man again, of course. And then you have that like really, really kind of poignant scene where he saves the train, and he's like
careful, it's a hero,
right? And people like, he's unmasked, and people are like, your secret's safe with us. And it's very like, on one hand, it's like, well, okay, well, what secret exactly? You just know a person's face, and it's not 2025, so it's hard to like, and so maybe see, well, nobody took a picture of it and be able to recognize them. But also, too, like, you just choose to believe it. You're like, well, I choose to believe that. And like, similar how at the end of Spider-Man 1, New Yorkers kind of band together against Green Goblin. They kind of band together in support of Spider-Man in this regard, in gratitude towards him. So it's very touching in that regard. It's a well told story. It's well acted. So I think it's probably still to me the best live action Spider-Man that I've seen. So
All right, let's leave it at 2 for now, and let's see how we feel. Spider-Man 3, your turn.
let's see. I think this one probably I love how you're expanding it out for us. This one goes at 1, obviously. No, this one goes at probably 9 or 10. I'd have to think about this one. I think
I'm leaning 11.
I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 is worse, honestly, significantly worse.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I forgot about that. That was dog water. You're right. Then it's 10.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm fine putting it at 10. I think it's actually probably a bit more forgivable than I remember first when I watched it. I remember first watching it, be like, oh, geez. And I was like watching.
I think you're part of it. You're comparing it to the first two, but
you're comparing to the first two, and you're hoping.
But that's good. I think it's an allowed criticism. Like I don't know. Like
I know it's fine.
Game of Thrones final season is remembered as one of the worst seasons of television in my head, and I don't know if I'm wrong. It's just so because it's not just a bad season of television. There's loads of bad seasons of television. It destroys the legacy of however many. It's arguably maybe up until that point the best television series of all time. Maybe it was going to be the GOAT.
Every bit of serial storytelling
is a legitimate sin.
Yeah, every bit of serial storytelling is the same with Star Wars. It's the same with Game of Thrones. The same with like when you create further episodes or seasons, they have the burden of one. They have to justify their own existence. Like, why are you still telling the story? And and two, they have to honor the legacy and what came before it and conclude it in some way. In theory, and Spider-Man 3 did not do that in multiple ways. It was also way too busy. It was clearly you could see the impacts of the studio.
It sounded like it looked like just the ultimate studio getting
studio interference. Studio gave
and by the way, I think it was at Karma that I think soon after that they got that huge hack at Sony and F Sony, man. F Sony. Like I have so little respect. After Spider-Man 3, I just kind of despise that studio. All right, let's just move on. Amazing Spider-Man. This is an interesting one. I think it's now. Oh, is it my turn? Oh, tricky. So there's things I remember really liking about it, but there were things like, is this Kurt Conner's the Lizard is the villain?
Yeah.
And I really do the superhero films. I think the villain is so critical, and I was not a good villain for me. So this is pretty mid. Actually, just zooming out and looking at these movies, they're all kind of bangers. I've actually got to put it pretty low because of the quality of these movies. Gosh, is it like an 8 maybe? Yeah, I'm gonna
go put it at 8 because I know
what I'm doing at 9. So yeah, that's my opinion. So sorry. So let me jump into it a little bit. I remember some of the like swinging and action being pretty good. I remember his chemistry with Emma Stone being really strong, and they like end up dating for like years after that.
There's a lot of redeeming qualities about it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to speak of the positive. I did think that the Peter Parker fell short for me. It's sort of like, for lack of a better word, arrogance of the way the character portrayed.
Kind of a punk rock skater Peter Parker.
Yeah. Really rubbed me. It just didn't. It was with everything, when it comes to Odyssey or this, I am familiar with the IP. If you are too far from the core characterization, I don't mind I really don't mind the superficial changes. Oh, someone's blonde and they're meant to be ginger, or a race swapped character. But the fundamentally getting like the core of the character wrong does affect me. Yeah, I think we can settle that 8. I also think we should be moving in a slightly faster clip. So let's jump into your turn, I believe.
Yeah, so this one goes at 11, I think, pretty easily.
Yeah.
It is probably the most overstuffed, the worst written, the least emotionally resonant, all that stuff. It just, it was also very clearly, like, very obviously a backdoor to a Sinister Six movie that never happened, and just,
shouldn't have happened and had no reason to exist. And and then there's all these, Fuck Sony. Let's just move on. I think it's not pleasant to just talk negatively about a film that we all know is not good.
Okay, so where would
God,
you put
that Jamie Foxx? And Jamie Foxx was a good actor. That Electro character was just
not good?
trash. I mean, just in the there's not. It's somehow like so cheesy, but like never got to the point of like hamming it up so much that like it's like fun again. It like it never felt that way to me.
Yeah,
and the character was sort of like just truly tragic enough that it wasn't like funny. I was just like kind of. It was like, this is really corny character, but I also feel bad. It was just like, yeah, it's cringe.
All right. Where would you put
Whose turn are we on?
That's yours. Also, by the way, you kind of shifted things. So like Spider-Man 2 and 1 are now at 3 and 4. Did you mean to do that?
Oh gosh, sorry. Not deliberate. Cool.
That's fine, honestly, if you want to do that. But all right. So where would you put Into the Spider-Verse?
No, what we do here? Cool. Into the Spider-Verse is a banger. But we got some really good ones. Six.
Interesting. I'd probably put that at 4. And I know it.
Oh. Interesting. Should we park it or discuss the others in relation to it and like work it out that way?
Let's park it, and then because I'm interested where you put Across the Spider-Verse, because that's, I think, where we probably might have the biggest gap, because
that's you. Where do you want to put it?
I put that at 1.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You know what? An interesting take.
I mean, I know you might think that, but it's actually critically the most well-reviewed of the every Spider-Man film. It's like interesting.
So
you might not
with the spot. We'd already established the world.
So yeah, let me just give you
this one. What Up Danger, or is that the first one?
That's the first one. I would honestly put the first one either at 4 or 3. I'd have to sort of flip flops between Spider-Man 1. I think Spider-Man 2 and Across the Spider-Verse are pretty easily my top 2 Spider-Man films. Yeah, I think Across the Spider-Verse to me is like this very operatic. It's, first of all, it's like extremely ambitious visually. Every single world has its own visual style. Every single character has a way that you have this kind of call it pathos or emotional kind of visualization that takes place with every single character in a different way. Every single world, of course, has its own visual style. Every single character and world has its own audio and musical motif.
Yes, that's true. Remember, like Indian Spider-Man had like the Indian motif.
Indian Spider-Man, Gwen has her own theme that's used for both joy and sadness. Of course, Miles, and of course, Peter B. Parker, and for that matter, honestly, the coolest one, which was Spider-Man 3000 or 2999.
Yeah, dude, that guy rocked. That's also the sickest.
And it was, in terms of its story structure, it was like Shakespearean and operatic, and it was like, oh wow, like you start kind of like, small. You have this person yearning for something, and then this person with this kind of like this, who seemingly kind of starts these like, call it from a villain's perspective, humble origins, like grows to this like multiverse threatening kind of god tier, looming threat who like both like could destroy multiverses, but like has the familial threat of, okay, he's going after Miles's father, and Miles is dealing with this, essentially the Spider-Man version. It's brought through a Spider-Man lens of the idea of canon, of fate and what is determined for me. This has to happen to me versus what I like choose, what I want to do. And so like, I know my father's going to die, and this is apparently every Spider-Man. These people I'm supposed to trust with my life, and they are my mentors and everything, are telling me that this has to happen. This happened to them. It's a canon event, right? But now they weren't aware of it before, and I am now. So I'm supposed to just accept this is my fate. not fight against it. So nice little whip you're drawing around it.
Thank you.
But anyway, so all that to say that plus like, the direction, that is to say like the writing, the editing, the pacing, the voice acting, the story structure, the music, the tools, the free song, the catharsis at the end when he reveals, oh, he's not in his own universe. He's not back home. He's in this other universe where his father did die. The Prowler, his uncle, has now taken over. And also, this is actually why he got his powers in the first place. He wasn't meant to exist anyway. Another kind of plays back into like the fate versus choice. And so, yeah, I just was blown away when I first saw it.
I gotta be honest. I'm down. You've convinced me. I remember really enjoying it and kind of thinking, oh, I'm just in a really good mood today. And like, I just really enjoyed that movie going experience. But you reminding me about a lot of the themes and things that are going on with it. I think you're just right.
I would give you a rewatch. It's also like very funny. I mean, like honestly, this is the movie where I can most remember the jokes. On top of all the emotional catharsis, all the acting, all the
help me out. What's the joke?
Like when the Spot is in like a warehouse or something, and he's like, "My holes can take me anywhere," or whatever, and like there are these like construction workers back there, like, "Hey man, stop talking about your holes," whatever. It's like okay, that's pretty fucking funny.
All right, I'll accept it. This is not how I thought this was going to begin, but I'm into it.
What would you?
I guess versus number one. All right, my turn next.
Yeah.
Spider-Man: Homecoming.
That's you now.
I'm thinking. I'm in debate with myself. I'm going to go with 4. Yeah, I'm going to go with 4. I got to just go with what I want. This is how I feel.
What would you have put number 1 if I hadn't put across number 1?
I don't plan it out at first. I'm doing it by vibes on each one. I didn't have like a set thing, and
I pretty much had
if I was doing it, I would have done a random number, and then I'd be like, oh, I never had a number 1, so I have to like move things to fit it. I was going to be like, from 1 to 11, how much do I like this movie from the worst to the best?
Sure.
Okay. So I don't know if I had a decision made yet at the time when I began this. I really liked Homecoming. I really liked it. I thought it was really good.
So you liked it more than Brand New Day?
We had been introduced already to the character, right? Because they show up in Civil War or whatever, and some other film. We have the I love that we have like the Tony Stark tech playing and how it kind of connects it to the wider MCU. I thought the villain was good. I am still obsessed with that twist that got me real good when the love interest of the villain and he's in the car and he's so good. And I think Top Han does a pretty great job at establishing the character, establishing the sort of stakes. I like the introduction to the supporting cast. I thought this take of Aunt May, sexy Aunt May, worked, and surprised and delighted. I don't know what to say. I like the movie a lot.
So you liked it more than Brand New Day, you'd say?
Yeah, I would say the difference is made on the villain. There's so much about Brand New Day that I like more, but I have to think of like cinematography is better than Brand New Day. You're right. The color palette. I think the music. I can't remember the action scenes. I remember some stuff with Vulture. I can't remember too much of the action scenes, but I remember definitely not having an issue with it. Sorry.
I think the action is definitely better in Brand New Day. I mean, like I think Homecoming.
But unfortunately, I mean, it's too critical to the movie. We're like, I was like, so who's the bad guy and why? And we're on her side, or we're fighting her and we're on her side. Are we trying to rescue her or not? Like, are you?
Yeah. You're indexing very highly on the villain. So I know I get it. I mean, you can.
And it really was not good in Brand New Day. I mean, it was like about as good as the movie could have been with a bad villain, and so that alone. I mean, and other things. It's not just the villain, right? So much doesn't work. We've discussed so many things, but portrayal with the MJ thing. By the way, great scene, the MJ portrayal, but like then how is the rest make sense and forgive? Like how are we doing what we're now doing?
Yeah.
Based on that,
Very
Like, this
emotionally.
is-
It's an emotionally impactful scene, but also it just makes it's vindictive. It makes doesn't make any
and
sense.
the rest of the movie is really hurt by it because it's like
Yeah.
the decisions you're now making kind of we can't get on your side anymore with. It was so good to have that scene. And also Emma Frost.
Okay.
You want the simplest solution, should have Emma Frost. She's vindictive as fuck and manipulative and a seductress. And you know, I think it would have even been a little bit better is somehow to subvert expectations is you have a blonde character and in whatever way she's like kind of very obviously not attractive, right? And so you don't expect the voluptuous
not another teen movie. Like what? She's got glasses.
Yeah, I was just thinking like the worst execution of that ever, which is the Steven Spielberg the virtual reality movie, where it's like, don't look at me, I'm hideous, and there's like some light pinkishness to her face. Ready Player One.
Right.
It's like I'm disfigured, and it's like little
It's
pink.
like a scar through an eyebrow or something. It's like
that's much worse than what she had like a birthmark here, basically. And there's like, yeah, the skin was a little pinker. It was, I mean, even if it is so hideous, it is nothing that being mediumly good at makeup wouldn't have entirely hidden. Like that's how good you had to be at makeup. Medium. And it would have been invisible. So we agree. Homecoming is a great film.
Homecoming. All right.
Let's bring it home now. Your turn.
Far From Home, I think is easily the worst of the Tom Holland films.
Yeah.
I probably put it at 9. I think is what we have as the remaining spot.
Yeah,
I mean, very quickly, I would say, I mean, just the premise of it, like Tony Stark in his will left military, the most advanced weaponry in the world to a teenager that was dead. Wait,
what do you mean dead?
Because when he wrote the will, Tom Holland had been snapped. And so, because Tom Holland only came back alive 10 minutes before Tony Stark himself died in Endgame. So, like, presumably he wrote this will in the 5 years in the interim when he'd been developing this tech and when Tom Holland was dead and he had no idea that time he was going to come back. Now, I suppose you could say, like, oh, did he say, like, in this scenario in the will, if Tom Holland, someone does get brought back to life in some whatever way that, I don't know, who fucking knows. Still obviously doesn't make sense to leave it to a teenager, to a high schooler. That's one. And then 2, like, Mysterio's plan made no sense. Like, wait, so, like, you know that threats are real. Like, global threats are real in this world, Mysterio. And your plan is to become the greatest superhero in the world through, like, special effects tech. And then when a real threat comes, what is your plan? Do you not have a plan for that? You're just going to, like, theatrically convince people that you are a real hero, and that when people are call upon you when a real threat comes, what's your plan? So anyway,
I honestly had more issue with Mysterio than
and then not to mention there are some weird like just like bits where it's like, you know, it's like a 17-year-old kid in a room by himself, and like some random adult woman comes up to him and is like, take off your clothes. It's meant to be like played for humor. You're like, this is strange. This is like a weird thing happened. I would not be okay if this was happening to my kid. So it was fine. It was like superficially entertaining, but I would put it as the worst of the Tom Holland films pretty easily.
Right.
So okay, your turn for No Way Home.
Number 5.
Number 5. Wow, interesting. Okay.
Sorry. Number 7. I got confused between the 2.
Okay.
I think it was there was some really delightful bits. I think the sum is less. What is it? The total is less than the sum of its parts. So lots of delightful bits. I don't know. I think a lot of the plot is bad, and I get that again. Get a lot of good destinations, a lot of bad journeys in order to get there. I had like on pretty much from the beginning where like Peter's Spider-Man and Peter whatever like robbing Doctor Strange. Also the poor characterization of Strange. I don't know that guy like. There is just no, even in just the MCU, there's just no way anything we've established about Strange Spider-Man is getting the one up on him like that. He can nick things from the Sorcerer Supreme. You don't think he has layers and layers and layers and layers of arcane defenses. I mean, this is an incredibly intelligent person. One of the world's top surgeons who then dedicates himself to something else. None of it makes any sense. You're getting away with this. He was so petulant, and I know you had to do it, like whatever. It was so arrogant. It was so selfish. It was so self-serving, and that never left me. I never could get away and enjoy the movie and just be like, I could just never not stop thinking, Spider-Man's such a like out of his own character dickhead for getting anywhere we were in the movie, like for getting us here. So yeah, no, I mean, I get it. There was lots of really lovely moments. I love Zendaya and Amazing Spider-Man. Sorry, I'm blanking on names right now. Interactions, Andrew Garfield interactions. I loved the three Spider-Man hanging out and talking and discussing things. I actually loved a lot of the Rogues Gallery interacting. There's like delightful bits. Cool action, but less than the sum of its parts entirely.
I think the third act is really what saves this. Third act is very emotional. I think like the rooftop scene where he meets the other two Spider-Man, and they like have this like discussion where it's just like, hey, like nobody else in the world could know this, but I'm from another world and I know what you went through in this other world. And that was like very like, oh my God, wow. That still might be my favorite probably scene in Spider-Man.
Yeah, there's a lot of good bits. There's a lot of good scenes.
And then like, as you said, but the movie as a whole was lacking from a structure and character perspective for sure.
Sorry for steamrolling, but that leaves only one spot for Brand New Day.
Yep,
Number 5. I think it's kind of tragic because I think they kind of achieved some of the hardest parts of making a movie. I think they got right. And I think it would have taken nothing for this film to be like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. But yeah, that plot, that villain, the confusing nature of it, some of the choices there, which does fundamentally change it quite a bit. I have offered up the best solution I can think of is don't kill anyone, Emma Stone, so you can still have the mutant tie-in. And I want a better reason for him to not talk to Ned and Zendaya. It's just like he's clearly so tortured, but like I just need a reason why. In a way that they do explain other things, right? They explain it. Why is he so dedicated? Why is he clearly he should stop and rest? Clearly he's burning stuff out. Like why is he doing it? The adulation, like the world is telling him, not the people closest to him, but the world, millions or thousands of people are telling him, keep doing what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing, for years and years and years of ardor and pain and suffering and trauma and injury, keep doing it because we are supporting you. And he is friendly. He cares about his neighborhood. He is Spider-Man.
Yep. No, I tend to agree. This is where I would have moved things around, but either way, Brand New Day would have been at number 5, I think, for me. So this works out. Yeah. No, I mean, good list.
Pretty good list.
I think I'd recommend if you get a chance rewatch Across the Spider-Verse. Maybe rewatch both.
Actually. I'm thinking about it now.
Rewatch both. I think
and the other one I think I want to rewatch is oh gosh, I kind of screwed this up now. What have I done? Help me out if I make mistakes here.
No, you got it.
Can't quite get it, but I'm trying so hard.
I think you're probably trying to. They're different aspect ratios. To try a bit too hard to like stack them perfectly. I think it's okay if they overlap a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. What was it? Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man is number 5. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I will keep them overlapped a bit to have them all work. Nice. Cool. So that's our list.
Yep. No, yeah, maybe rewatch Into and Across at some point. And you can kind of, with fresh eyes, let me know what you think.
I want to watch Spider-Man 2 again, actually. I didn't have the great. I think I watched it once or twice. I don't think I had the greatest impression of it, and especially after your impassioned kind of speech about it, I want to watch it again. Yeah, sometime soon. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you again to our viewer, and thank you, Andreas, my bro with the bow, for spending some time with me on this Sunday. And we will be back probably not next weekend, but maybe either the week or the weekend 2 weekends after that. And so we'll see. But yeah, thank you again, and until next time, appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Guys.